Isn't Gamescom great? It's another jam-packed showcase season with a bunch of new games, announcements and updates, with the re-emergence of Silksong being the biggest story, but we also have Souls-likes, updates to beloved games, insane-looking titles and more, so let's begin with Unbeatable, a vibrant rhythm adventure game where you play as Beat, a pink-haired rebel rocking out in a world where music is outlawed, blending anime flair with a Scott Pilgrim-esque energy. You navigate colourful locales, chatting with quirky characters and making dialogue choices that shape the story, while jamming in arcade-style rhythm battles using just 2 buttons, up and down, to hit notes in sync with an original soundtrack looking very sleek and has an official release date in November. Following the success of the Turtles beat-em-up Shredder's Revenge and the in-development Marvel Cosmic Invasion, another licensed property is getting the same treatment in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Dragon Pearl of Destruction, a retro-inspired pixel art beat-em-up that looks great, where you play as iconic heroes and battle Skeletor's minions to stop an ancient ritual, channeling the energy of classic beat-em-ups like Golden Axe. And while I don't have any particular nostalgia for He-Man, I'm sure that there's an audience for this and looks pretty good. This video is brought to you by Carefully Stamped, a very charming, design-focused sandbox crafting title where you are designing and selling postcards in this job simulator. You design these postcards by selecting from a number of pre-made objects, resizing and positioning them to make wonderful little art pieces, decorating it with stickers, washi tape and even doodles, and can also add short, heartfelt notes to your customers to give you that warm, fuzzy feeling. Stamps are the other half of this equation, since you not only have to select the perfect stamp for the postcard, but can also start a collection of your own and looks absolutely adorable. If you love cute stationery or organizing stickers, this game will be for you, so wishlist the game on Steam via the link in the description below. The Mad Lads did it. Somehow, we are getting a new 3D Bubsy game in Bubsy 4D, a 3D platformer that stars the infamous character, with Bubsy 3D from 1996 being universally panned, but now is being made by indie developer Fabras, who did make Slime Sun and Demon Turf, so hopefully they will have the magic touch to make this great. You play as Bubsy, the wisecracking bobcat, on an intergalactic platforming adventure, zipping through alien planets to reclaim the Golden Fleece. You jump, glide, claw up walls and pounce on enemies using a new hairball form to roll around at blistering speeds through the levels, collecting yarn, taking part in time trial challenges, and making your way to the end of the level. For what it's worth, this does look pretty alright visually, having a number of things in common with Demon Turf, and while Bubsy was of the same era as beloved games like Banjo-Kazooie, it has a much worse reputation, but is now under modern Atari, which is at least doing interesting things in the space. Alright, I'll say it. Everwind does look like a more grown-up Minecraft, being an open-world surviving crafting title with a voxel art style and in first person, but where the blocks are a little smaller and the art style a little more realistic as compared to the mega hit, being kind of smart if you think about it, if they're trying to get the kids who played Minecraft but have grown up since then. Embark on an adventure across floating islands, having your own flying ship base to anchor you as you uncover a mysterious world's secrets, looking to have bits of Valheim and Skyrim in this. You explore procedurally generated islands, gathering resources, crafting tools and fighting enemies with swords, shields or magical staffs, while sailing your customizable airship through the boundless skies. Loot dungeons, battle enemies like skeletons, and shape the world with fully destructible environments, unlocking new crafting recipes, upgrading your ship, and personalizing your character's look along the way. It will also have co-op support so you can play with friends, and looks like it's for fans of the genre. Death by Scrolling, interestingly, comes to us from developer Ron Gilbert, best known for adventure games such as The Secret of Monkey Island, but this is a very different kind of game, being a roguelite, vertically scrolling RPG. Race upwards through the pixel art depths of Purgatory to collect 10,000 gold along the way, so that you can pay the ferryman's fee for a shot at the afterlife. You pick from a varied cast of characters, each with unique perks, and sprint through endlessly vertically scrolling levels, battling bizarre monsters with auto-firing attacks while dodging the relentless Grim Reaper. There's a fiery trap at the bottom of the screen which will kill you if it catches up, so avoid that while also outmaneuvering death itself, grabbing gold and gems to spend at vendors for power-ups during a run. There are also quirky side missions to take on, which should eventually get you powerful enough to complete the game, so while this is something different, a good game designer is a good game designer and should be pretty neat. Some of these titles might not have been on the stage at opening night live, but developers at Gamescom are showcasing their games and releasing new trailers, including Katanaut, an insanely fast-paced pixel art roguelike platformer where you play as a lone warrior slashing through a crumbling space station spiraling into cosmic chaos. You wield a katana, guns, and magic-like abilities, chaining slashes and dodges against twisted cosmic horror enemies. Explore haunted corridors, navigating procedurally generated layouts and handcrafted rooms to uncover the dark secrets of the station, with plenty of progression and upgrade elements, unlocking new skills and perks to create unique builds for each run. Of course, the pixel art looks excellent, pretty bloody and gory all things considered, but is very apt for the setting and theme, effectively creating that cyberpunk horror vibe and looks good. A gripping narrative RPG is Rue Valley, where you play as a man trapped in a 47-minute time loop in a mysterious motel, being some sort of cross between Disco Elysium and Groundhog Day. You explore a small, godforsaken town, clicking to interact with quirky characters, making dialogue choices that shape relationships and outcomes, and navigating a mind map to store memories, which is their take on the Thought Cabinet system. It looks like a CRPG, but might lean more towards the adventure game genre, where your aim is to break the time loop by experimenting with your actions and interactions with the townspeople. There are RPG-like stats along your decisional, social, and emotional axes where you assign points and will unlock unique dialogue options depending on how much progress you have made, with status effects like drunken bonus or anxious sensitivity altering interactions. Through the various time loops, you're able to see the distinct personalities of the character, looking like an interesting take on the narrative RPG and could be huge. We did also get the review of Lords of the Fallen 2, the follow-up to Lords of the Fallen from 2023, formerly known as Lords of the Fallen 2, since that was the sequel to Lords of the Fallen 2014, so confusing naming aside, just know that this is a Souls-like RPG that is more similar to the 2023 entry. We only have a cinematic trailer, so nothing too much to share here, but it looks like typical gothic dark fantasy stuff of battling horrible creatures, having two parallel realms to explore, full co-op support, and some gnarly looking combat, execution animations, and blood and gore, definitely being for fans of the genre. Something like 12 or 13 years have passed since Routine was first announced, where this first-person sci-fi horror title has undergone somewhat of a development hell, so it's kind of a miracle that it is still slated for Q4 2025. You play as a lone survivor, exploring a decaying lunar research station, unraveling its dark secrets, definitely drawing parallels to Dead Space, but with more robotic enemies instead. Navigate the eerie, dimly lit corridors, scavenging for tools and data, using a futuristic Cosmo drill to hack terminals or pry open doors, while avoiding relentless androids with unpredictable AI. You aim to uncover the station's grim fate through environmental clues and audio logs, making choices that shape the narrative's outcome. The Cosmo Drill can be upgraded with new functions, allowing you to access new areas, and while there are light combat elements, it's more of a last resort kind of thing. The retro-futuristic vibes draws upon the 1980s, but of course, much creepier than the idealistic vision of the future, looking crap your pants scary and should be good. Subway Surfers on steroids or Sonic but a train has been but some of the ways that Denshattack has been described, an action title where you control a gravity-defying train through a colourful Japanese dystopia, pulling off all sorts of tricks, flips and grinds that would make Tony Hawk proud, as you outmaneuver rival gangs and find a way to spoil the day of a shady mega corporation. You move along the tracks and through the levels, grinding rails, flipping trains, and wall riding through cities and meadows, chaining tricks like ollies or spins to rack up points, and then things get kind of insane with the variety of scenarios it presents to you, from underwater segments to a giant baseball chasing after you to boss fights against giant robots and more. There is ample use of anime speed lines as a visual overlay, which might make this game look faster than it is, but still, it does look fast-paced, insane and kind of fun, being level-based, but there will at least be 50 of them, along with a cool look and sick beats, and it's a new announcement which I'm very excited about. Let's go back to something creepy, shall we? Cronos the New Dawn comes to us from Bloober Team, a developer who swayed public opinion with their remake of Silent Hill 2 and are rolling that momentum into their own IP. Similarly, this is a survival horror game but might have more action, where you play as the Traveler, the iconic looking main character on all their promotional art that kind of looks like a human-sized Big Daddy from Bioshock, scavenging the retro-futuristic wasteland of 1980s Poland to extract survivors of a cataclysmic event. You explore eerie locales using melee attacks and firearms like pistols or shotguns and third-person combat, torching defeated enemies to prevent them from merging into a tougher version. Complete missions for the collective using time travel portals to quote-unquote rescue targets from the past, extracting their essence using your harvester so that they can accompany you into the future. Sounds righteous, but it seems like you are killing them using these essences to power you up, but the more of them you carry, the more haunted your suit becomes, adding a risk-reward element. Still, it looks sick as hell in that modern horror kind of way, with a tilt towards action, perhaps appealing to a broader audience, and is releasing very soon indeed. From the developer of the very Italian Souls-like RPG Inotra The Last Song comes La Divina Commedia, or the Divine Comedy, drawing upon Dante's work in which you are battling through the depths of hell, taking on demonic forces. Obviously, this is not the first game to draw inspiration from said poem, with Dante's Inferno from 2010 being one such example, but this is very grimdark Souls-like, so they are continuing to make games like this. There will be a diverse array of weapons to select from, each with unique playstyles and dedicated mechanics, where the choices you make bind you to the 7 deadly sins, probably offering replayability depending on who you choose to side with. Also, it seems to be following in the footsteps of Night Rain and has all the hottest buzzwords of the season, having procedural extraction dungeons as one of the main features listed, along with a high-risk, high-reward demon core mechanic that rewards more aggressive play, being an interesting second entry, so let's see how this does. Publisher Playstack is firing on all cylinders, rolling the success that they found in Balatro into funding and getting the word out for even more indie games such as Voidbreaker, a pulse-pounding roguelite first-person shooter which released this week and got its trailer up on the big stage. You are trapped in an endless cycle by a hostile AI blasting away at relentless machines in a sci-fi nightmare scenario. You dash through arenas with slick movement, mixing shooting and taking cover into the action with an extensive weapon modding system that allows you to personalize your guns. Destructible environments means that you can blast through walls or collapse structures to create new paths, also using the environment as a weapon. In roguelite fashion, there is a node-based map, and each encounter is arena-based, allowing you to move on only when you have defeated all enemies, choosing between different combinations of risk and reward in the next area. Having quite a great launch so far, and I'm sure that momentum will carry on. We also had the announcement of the 1.0 release date of Pioneers of Pagonia, which will be in December 2025, about 2 years after their early access launch, and is a city building strategy sim with direct lineage back to the creator of the Settlers, and is very much a spiritual successor. You lead your tribe across procedurally generated islands, gathering resources, constructing settlements, and managing trade routes to keep your pioneers thriving. scout for resources, and befriend rival factions through diplomacy, or, if there's no other choice, use force and the sword to battle them. Unlock new buildings and progress up the tech tree as you expand your economy to support larger populations. Also, interestingly, it does have 4-player co-op where you are all on the same team, and we'll be able to construct buildings and do generally city building stuff together. They also released a major patch recently overhauling the economy, so things have been changing in early access and might be worth a revisit. I had a feeling that the recent release of Warhammer 40k Dawn of War Definitive Edition heralded something else, and was pleasantly surprised to see the announcement of Dawn of War 4, a return to its roots and is a classic real-time strategy game but somewhat streamlined as compared to Warcraft or Age of Empires, which at the time was championed by Dawn of War itself and Company of Heroes. This new edition will launch with 4 factions in the Space Marines, Orcs, Necrons, and the debut of the Adeptus Mechanicus, each being wholly unique. You're building bases to churn out units, but has a resource point capture system to generate the resources that you need. Where I had such a good time with the earlier games in my youth, and I'm just happy to see this making a comeback, although it should be noted that it is from a different developer in King Art as compared to Relic, so hopefully they will be able to carry the mantle. Another showcase, another mention of Outbound, a cozy open world exploration game which has exploded in terms of wishlists, but yet we still do not have a release date. You are roaming an open world in your customizable camper van, driving through diverse biomes, stopping and getting out to gather resources so that you can craft tools, grow crops and upgrade your van with additions like solar panels. You explore on foot and scan flora, or solve light puzzles to unlock new areas, increasing your capabilities to go further and explore. There's something about van life as a concept which really appeals to people, so adding in a survival game kind of slant is genius, in addition to the wonderfully cozy vibe and pleasant art style, also having co-op support and looks like fun with friends. We also got a teaser for Enshrouded Wake of the Water, a content drop for this survival action RPG, which, if you were not aware, was the hit genre of 2024, together with releases like Pale World. This, of course, adds a new flooded area with water physics and swimming being a big deal since its absence was conspicuous in the launch version. So much so that dare I say that this might change the entire shape of the world. Of course, new enemies, weapons, quests and more will be added as you explore this new area, setting up a new base and exploiting the resources there, with the best news being that it releases pretty soon in October and the game continues to impress. A new game publisher named Lyrical Games was announced a week or two ago, and their first project revealed is Valor Mortis, a grimdark first-person Souls-like title set in the Napoleonic era. You play as a former soldier in Napoleon's army who rises from death, now having to harness a supernatural power which turns you into a grotesque monster as you battle across a plague-ridden, undead-infested Europe. This is from the developers of Ghost Runner, but instead of cyberpunk first-person slasher, it's grimdark, gritty and lower tech, where you're fighting with swords and muskets in addition to your powers. Still, master parries, dashes and the timing of visceral finisher moves as you fight your way through, also encountering similar mutant soldiers and monsters on the battlefield, which should be quite the challenge. You will also see some representations of historical figures in the game, where a first-person Souls-like sure is an interesting mix, and I'm excited to see the reception to this. Hyper Light Breaker Double Down got a new trailer and is playable right now, being the second major update to this third-person action roguelite, in which you choose from various characters known as Breakers, exploring the neon-charged overgrowth to topple the Abyss King. While initially pretty hyped, people were expecting Risk of Rain 2 levels of popularity, this was not well received at launch and still sits at mixed reviews, but the developers are working on and taking into account player feedback to improve the game. This update adds a new breaker named Graven Heart, new enemies, weapons, mods and more, along with new points of interest to explore, a new infiltrator-type assassin character which you need to watch out for, as well as a new bounties system which are special targets to take out for extra rewards during a run, where if you're still playing this, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We also got the release date of Moonlighter 2: The Endless Vault, an action-adventure RPG which is the follow-up to a fan favourite where you play as a character who is a shopkeeper by day and an adventurer by night, exploring vibrant dungeons, fighting enemies, and getting loot to sell in your shop. It's a tried and tested gameplay loop, but this time in full 3D instead of pixel art, still retaining the intense combat and action combined with the haggling and tending to your shop in the day. You manage your inventory, set prices, and upgrade your store to attract customers, with profits which can then be reinvested to unlock new charms, weapons, and shop upgrades, enhancing both combat and business as you progress. People have often classified the original as a roguelite, but that is true insofar as having procedurally generated dungeons every night, but the permanence of your shop doesn't really make it run-based in my opinion, so action-adventure RPG it is for me, but do note that this will be an early access release. I don't know how to pronounce this game, so let's go with PVKK, an action simulation title where you're a planetary defense cannon operator for an autocratic regime, tasked with blasting away at alien invaders to fend off an interplanetary invasion from the comfort of your cozy bunker in a dystopian sci-fi world. It mixes manning the cannon and sitting in front of your control panel with a bunch of levers, buttons, switches, and more, with first-person exploration within the bunker itself, definitely feeling like a mix of please don't touch anything and papers please, but where you are effectively in a turret in missile command. Learning how to interact with the controls to control the cannon is part of the fun and can be pretty intense when you have to make time-critical decisions, looking so satisfying if you calculate the trajectories just right and land a hit. However, more interesting to me is the simulation part, whether you choose to listen to your superiors or to investigate the bunker for yourself, with things that seem a little creepy as well, coming to us from the developer of Domekeeper and should be great. Speaking of which, a no-brainer pick is Absalom, also getting an October release date and is a roguelite beat-em-up which looks absolutely amazing. Unsurprising since it comes to us from Guard Crush, makers of Streets of Rage 4, but with their own IP this time around. Choose from outcast heroes in a shattered world fighting to reclaim magic from the tyrannical Sun King using classic beat-em-up brawler-style actions with roguelite randomization and power-ups during a run. The art and animations are a key selling point, and of course will have co-op support, where no one has quite cracked the formula for a roguelite beat-em-up as of yet, so if anyone is to do it, Guard Crush would be a pretty good horse to bet on. Hey, remember Valheim? The survival crafting ARPG from 2021 is still chugging along, where they were a team of like 6 people or something and sold a bajillion copies and have released a free update titled Call to Arms. Kind of. This is currently on the public test realm, so you can opt into it, but there might be some rough edges since it is testing after all. This adds new combat systems like Adrenaline, as well as items known as trinkets which affect you in combat, as well as new threats, new creatures, weapons, armor, building pieces, hairstyles, beard styles, and much more, with a rebalancing across the board of Forsaken powers as well, adding even more to the game and is already among the best in the genre. Another big announcement is Cult of the Lamb Wool Haven, a paid DLC that fits in near the end of the base game, where you lead your fluffy cult into a new frosty region, building a base and spreading the dark word, while still remaining kind of adorable. You explore snowy biomes, recruiting followers and battling heretics with revamped weapons, managing resources to expand your cult's compound with new buildings like wool mills, conquer new bosses and sway followers through rituals, having to deal with the code as well. The developer did release a bunch of free updates to the base game, even adding in co-op support, which must have been no small task, so a paid DLC makes sense, so let's see if there's enough content to substantiate that price. And of course, the biggest news is that Hollow Knight Silksong has a release date which is just 2 weeks away. Yes, the most wishlisted game on Steam is finally releasing after years and years of hype and speculation. Funnily enough, the developer did an interview and said that they were just having so much fun making the game, adding and tweaking everything to their liking, unburdened by financial pressures since the first game did so well, which doesn't explain the radio silence communication, but I suppose all is forgiven at this point. It will have something like 40 bosses and a ton of content with even more to come post-launch, and to the haters, apparently the demo plays pretty well at Gamescom, so I don't think there's anything to worry about, and you can judge for yourself in 2 weeks. Watch this video for more of the best indie games.